Festivities began early in Newcastle, dignitaries last night attending the Lord Mayor's Australia Day dinner at City Hall. And it was a big night for Molly Cluett of Mayfield, named Newcastle's Citizen of the Year in recognition of her voluntary work over 2 decades at the Developmentally Disabled Centre at Stockton. The Young Citizen Award went to Hamilton's Angelique Daly for her welfare work through the combined Hunter caring groups. This morning, community leaders attended an ecumenical service at Christchurch Cathedral. A few hours later, people crowded the foreshore for a citizenship ceremony. More than 90 people from 19 nations swore allegiance to their new home. In his welcome to the candidates, Lord Mayor John McNaughton told the new citizens they were finally taking a full place in the affairs of Australia. But at the same time, they are adding to the breadth of the multicultural heritage of this country. As Australia Day Ambassador, the commanding officer of HMAS Newcastle, Commander Rowan Moffat, called on everyone to continue Australia's record of achievement.
The 3 men, all from the Sydney area, were body surfing in an unpatrolled area off Budgewoi Beach at around 2 o'clock this afternoon when they got into trouble.
I believe a couple of them were trying to assist the other male out of the water. They were caught in a current and were separated. 2 of the males were brought to shore with the assistance of other beachgoers. They've since been transported to hospital.
A big search was mounted for the 23-year-old man, with divers brought in on board the rescue helicopter. His body was spotted numerous times from the air, but the swell made it impossible to reach him. Tonight, his body had not been recovered. His 2 friends remain in Wyong Hospital. It's believed they're also aged in their 20s.
More than 70 Central Coast teenagers proved that fun in the sun isn't necessarily a recipe for skin damage. Gosford Sailing Club, along with the Central Coast Health Promotion Unit, hosted the free sailing clinic as part of the Me No Fry Sun Protection campaign. World champion sailors Chris Nicholson and Jacqueline Ellis joined forces to pass on pointers to both the experienced and novice sailors. Lessons included advanced sailing techniques as well as sun safety tips.
Today's to show to the young people that we should be looking after ourselves so that we can enjoy ourselves still in the sun by wearing long sleeve shirts or t-shirts, sunburn cream and a hat.
We can still have our recreation pursuits, and that's great, and enjoy our wonderful climate, but make sure we try and do those out of the hottest part of the day. That's why we're starting at 2 and going into the twilight time.
The Cougars didn't try anything fancy at first, but kept hitting to maintain the home runs. But it wasn't so much the Cougars' talent, but the Eagles' sloppy play which kept the tourists on top. The Eagles weren't pitching well, and despite a change in pitcher during the game, things weren't going the home team's way. It was 5-0 before the Hunter boys even got a bat, and then the Cougars applied the screws with some brilliant outfield play. In a later game, the Eagles went down 6-3 to the Cougars. It was a night the Eagles would rather forget. They'll have to regroup with more action in Brisbane over the weekend. Conditions were near perfect for the opening round of the amateur tournament. Nathan Green from the Newcastle club of Waratah was in fine touch, as was his playing partner, Australian schoolboy champion Trent Berry, with this birdie putt on the 7th. The Aussies had the overseas players over a barrel, the fast greens a shock for some. Stephen Gallagher was the best of the visitors. The European amateur champ shot a 69. That's 4 off the leader, South Australia's Peter Chapman, who hit a brilliant 65 to be 7 under. Defending champion Kiwi Marcus Wheelhouse is not out of contention. He's only 5 shots off the lead. Play continues over the weekend. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Zoo is the talk of the boxing world today. His decisive victory over Jake Rodriguez in Las Vegas has many of the sport's big promoters chasing his services. While he's not expected to defend his title till May, the Newcastle Knights general manager Brad Mellon today said he would resume negotiations with Bill Morty on his arrival back in Australia to have the fight at Marathon Stadium. Morty saw the venue last year, and when the title fight went to Las Vegas, he, Kostya and trainer Johnny Lewis all expressed a desire to have his first defence in Newcastle.
You've got to get some sort of charge and you've got to get some sort of achievement goal, and Newcastle's never hosted a world title. So it'd probably be good to go into the history books and say we were the ones that brought it here.
Meantime, concerned greyhound owners and trainers will picket this Saturday's greyhound meeting at Beaumont Park. The greyhound community remains divided, with a meeting of concerned owners and trainers voting to continue boycotts at Beaumont Park yesterday due to a reduction in prize money. The group will now meet with the Greyhound Control Board on the 9th of next month.
Despite a little rain on Saturday, the Newcastle Harbour Regatta achieved a new level of success this year. The laser and fireworks spectacular, just one of the attractions to help draw thousands to the foreshore. The big roll-up made it a big moneymaker too. Record proceeds topping $30,000 are expected from the weekend event, all to help upgrade the Newcastle Region Maritime Museum. The funding will go towards setting up a new exhibition on the settlement of the Hunter, expanding storage facilities, improved education resources and, most importantly, the start of a computerised record of the museum's massive collection.
It makes the museum's collection available to researchers, to education institutions, interested people, genealogists, everybody. So it's very, very important.
The computer archive work should begin soon. The project expected to take around 2 years to complete. Meanwhile, speculation continues over the long-term location of the museum. An offer for it to take up a new waterfront site as part of the honeysuckle development is being considered. Museum authorities say any new site will have to be pretty good, though, to compete with its existing home at Fort Scratchley.
The teachers of the Year 1 children at Wingham Brush Primary School took it easy on the students for their first day back. Reading, word games and puzzles were the norm. Soon their learning abilities will be under scrutiny as part of the early learning profiles introduced throughout the state this year. The system aims to monitor the progress of each child in comparison with their workmates on a semester-by-semester basis. This will stay with them for the rest of their school lives. The number of students enrolled in Manning State schools has increased by 250 to 10,500 this year. Wingham Public School has made provisions for future expansion with a maintenance program that began over the holidays.
We've maintained the area outside and improved some of the alternate learning centres. The one we're standing in now has got new seating, as you can see around here.
Principal Gary Crowther says outdoor covered areas and new environments are essential for learning.
We're trying to extend the learning experiences of children as much as possible beyond the classroom.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
This Sunday, the familiar round ball at Austral Park will be banished as Rugby League runs onto the soccer stronghold for the first time. A Breakers Western Suburbs initiative, the outstanding surface and facilities make Austral Park an ideal league venue, with the Rosella's home ground of Harker Oval unavailable for the pre-season.
I'm sure the boys from both camps from West on Sunday will certainly know they've played a game of league, and she is pretty long, but she is a soccer pitch, and it will stay that way, I can assure you.
113 metres long, the ground will need some modifications, with a goalpost to be installed on the 6-yard box to ensure an adequate in-goal area. New captain, coach and former Winfield Cup player Paul Martin was looking forward to playing at the ground and has been equally impressed with his side's build-up to their encounter with the Magpies.
I've got 2 first-grade sides at the moment and I can't split them, and basically their performance, their fitness and their ability will determine which side West will be put in as a first-grade side this year.
Most people still can't believe nobody was killed or seriously injured when the 40-tonne span flipped and crashed upside down onto the road below. A parked four-wheel drive and a utility were squashed, their owners lucky not to be in the vehicles at the time.
And pedestrian traffic won't be back to normal for quite a while, I'd imagine.
Incredibly fortunate that there was no one injured.
Very, very fortunate. Lucky it didn't happen a couple of weeks ago with the school holidays.
RTA inspectors allege that the truck loaded with an excavator which clipped the bridge was outside legal limits and an infringement notice has been issued. Meanwhile, Port Stephens Council engineer Peter Gesling will recommend that the walkway be replaced as soon as possible. Structural inspections and insurance company assessments have not yet been finalised, but the replacement cost of the span is expected to be about $100,000. The pre-stressed concrete walkway was designed to balance on its own weight between 2 supporting staircases. The same design, which meets building specifications, would be used again.
The police minister was shown around the new cells at Tari Police Station today. Accompanied by the member for Myall Lakes John Turner and District Superintendent Peter Walsh, Mr West had informal discussions with local police officers about the incidents of juvenile crime in Taree. It's been suggested the Greater Taree City Council and police undertake a community safety audit to identify problem areas. Mr West says the addition of 8 police to the town will help reinforce policing in Taree. Following a meeting with members of the local Volunteer Rescue Association, Mr West travelled to Foster. He turned the first sod, marking the start on the new police station. The $2.7 million complex is due to be opened by December, with tenders announced in the next 2 weeks.
There's a degree of cynicism by some. They never thought they'd see the day.
Mr West says the station will provide better working conditions for police and is in an ideal location.
It'll allow the beat units to be able to work better to the CBD and where those difficult areas are occurring. But then obviously we'll be looking in time to expanding the numbers of police that are working here as well.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
This is where the as-yet unnamed private university will be built, an hour north of Sydney on the Central Coast. Wyong Council has agreed to sell the developer the 50-hectare site flanked by the F3 freeway on one side and Warnervale railway station on the other.
Its location, its climate, it's near to beaches, it's near to Sydney. The transport links are very, very good with the freeway, the railway's right next to here.
The university will cater for about 4,000 students from Australia and overseas. Instead of offering a vast number of courses, it will only have 6 faculties. Environmental studies will be the uni's main focus. Communications, languages, the performing arts and sport will also be taught. The courses will be shorter.
It will allow students to graduate in 2 years rather than 3, without spending any less time in the classroom.
A 2-year degree will cost a total of $30,000. It's hoped construction of the $170 million campus will begin this time next year. Financial backing has been sought from both Australian and foreign companies.
We know that this is going to be of major benefit to the growth of the Central Coast.
The first students are expected to enrol in 1996. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Powering away on a lump of steel is not what springs to mind when most of us think of art, but step into the Makana metal fabricating workshop and a modern form of expression is evolving.
Interpret it anyway. I mean, interpretations are so open. There's so many different ways of seeing.
This particular piece, inspired by mere existence.
Basically what it is about is my personal experiences, which therefore is a human experience.
Traditionally a man's metal, Sandra says working with steel has great advantages.
The fact that once you heat it, it's so malleable, you can twist it, bend it, do whatever you like with it.
In less than a month, the final product will be on display for the public's interpretation at the John Painter Gallery in Hunter Street.
Many service agencies joined forces to arrange the activities over the school holidays, including this morning's march through the town to Rocket Park for a day of family activities. The idea has been to keep the children occupied, and it has paid off.
Something different for them to do during the holidays rather than just walking around saying, you know, what can we do?
The day proved the universal appeal of the sausage sandwich. And while not everything went strictly according to plan, the program of dancing and music interspersed with sporting events ran smoothly. And there was the haunting throb of the ancient didgeridoo. A reduction in crime figures over the holiday period is being attributed in part to the program, and organisers are planning more next time.
This is the fruit of 10 months' labour by the Church of Christ congregation, and today it had much to sing about. Parishioners gathered to bless their new $450,000 place of worship, the guest of honour, Governor Peter Sinclair. 15 years ago, this congregation consisted of just a handful of people who held Bible studies in their homes. It was then that Pastor Ray Hawkins began as an associate minister in the Mayfield Church of Christ, determined to establish roots for the congregation in Maitland.
That I now declare the new Christian Education and Worship Centre of the Church of Christ in Maitland officially and well and truly open.
The speeches were all a bit much for the younger members, but they were kept amused in one of a number of Sunday school rooms and studies in the complex. There's a second stage to be completed, pending more fundraising efforts by the church. The officers from Waratah were responding to a 000 call to a fire at the Mater Hospital at about 10:30 last night. The collision occurred between the police vehicle and this white sedan at the intersection of Griffith Road and Tudor Street in Lambton. The officers suffered minor injuries. The driver of the other car wasn't hurt. Meanwhile, staff at the Mater were counting their blessings. Haematology patients from Ward 4H, where the fire broke out, had been evacuated 2 weeks ago in preparation for renovations. It's believed a ceiling fan short-circuited, sparking the fire. However, there was only minor heat and smoke damage to the ward.
inside as they come down with about 350 metres left to go. We're over on the inside. Cut Up Rough is still the leader. Over on the outside is Stellas and Crystal Lovers down the outside, being followed by Mr. Elegant and finishing fast Telesto right over on the outside. But Cut Up Rough as well clears and no danger. And Cut Up Rough will bolt in. Cut Up Rough wins it easily. Second home Telesto, a good run.
Ridden by Alf Matthews and trained by David Hayes, Cut Up Rough returned 290 and 150. The top weight Telesto 260 and Tristalove 180.
It was a grey day for Eric and Mavis Howland, snug in what's been their little piece of paradise for the past 20 years. They're awaiting an eviction notice to move their van out of the Soldiers Point Caravan Park before work begins on a major upgrading.
It's been wonderful, really wonderful. I'm going to miss everybody.
I'm going to miss it. Retiring age now, that's all I was living for, to come up, spend retirement time here fishing and mixing with my friends. But anyway, I suppose things have got to change, but it's going to be hard. It's meant everything to me, my grandkids.
100 tourist cabins will replace many of the on-site holiday vans. However, 14 full-time residents will be allowed to stay on. Eric caught today's lunch. Mavis flipped the whiting fillets into the fryer. For the one-time Cessnock miner and BHP night watchman, this has been an affordable home away from home. The original $5 a night fee has increased more than 2,000% over the years.
Well, I always think after all these years, this little bit of dirt should have belonged to me.
I reckon they got to upgrade it, which I suppose you can't stop progress, but, people that see it is happy with the way it is.
Also set to move with the times, the old Soldiers Point Marina. The sleepy boat shed with its oil-soaked timber floorboards will be torn down and replaced with $1 million marina and restaurant complex. Although one of the original marinas on the port, Soldiers Point missed the boat compared with some of the other big bright lights developments.
We were the only floating marina at this end of the port, and people used to come up here from all areas of Nelson's Bay and Dutchies and all those areas just to get a hot shower. But of course, with the upmarket Dalboras and the anchorage now, that's all changed, and so we have to change as well.
Soldiers Point Marina has always been a jumping-off point for those seeking the quieter parts of the waterway, but there's a growing demand for visitors to be wined and dined.
We're proposing a restaurant upstairs, which I think everybody's pretty well aware of. We've had long dealings with Lloyd Moffat, who will be going into the restaurant upstairs, but we'll also have office space to let upstairs, a new upmarket chandlery shop downstairs with a larger workshop, outboard and small boat sales, and we're pretty excited about it. It's going to be a big thing for us and a big thing for Soldiers Point.
Operation Coral was held over the weekend. It targeted almost 100 licensed premises in the Hunter region. 237 breaches of the Act were detected, most relating to underage drinking. Of concern to police are the number of false IDs being used. In some cases, teenagers are using expired licences belonging to family members or friends. And then there's the manufactured type, where dates of birth are changed by using letraset. In one particular case, a photo was carefully stuck over the original.
And all these things are very worrying in that they would go to such lengths just to get into some of the licensed premises.
Helping police are security doormen. They're the people who check the ID and they're awake to the ploys the teenagers are using.
The message is to the kids, if they try to use these fake IDs, we will catch them.
If a juvenile is caught using a false identification, then it's a fine of $50 on the spot. However, it's a fine of 4 times that amount for the person who created the bogus identification or supplied it to the juvenile. Police are also issuing similar fines to those who buy alcohol on behalf of juveniles.
Very worrying, the age of some of the kids and the amount of alcohol they have. We had 2 14-year-old girls that had both had a 1 litre bottle of scotch and they were consuming that, and that's very worrying at such a tender age.
Operation Coral will end in a month. However, police and security firms are warning the crackdown will continue indefinitely.
For skipper Alan Neighbour, it's an unwanted pit stop a week into the voyage to Punta del Este in Uruguay. Since leaving Sydney on the 3rd leg of the race, Neighbour has moved into 3rd place in his class, overtaking Nia Vaughan from Britain, and was less than a day behind class leader Giovanni Soldini from Italy on Kodak. An alternator breakdown is hampering Newcastle Australia's onboard power supply, and backup parts have been flown to the port of Bluff at the southern end of New Zealand. The American yacht Coyote has also pulled in to replace a storm-damaged mainsail. The same electrical problem forced Neighbour back to port at the beginning of the South African leg of the race, and while this delay is hard enough to swallow, the Newcastle yachtsman is also in need of urgent attention for a sore tooth. He's hoping the pain will be numbed by the knowledge that the rest of the fleet is only making slow progress in light winds.
Last year, 311 houses in Newcastle were broken into. The goods were often pawned or sold to second-hand dealers. In most cases, the dealers had no idea they were taking stolen property, but a simple engraving could have changed that. For the next 6 months, this caravan, which was in Carrington today, will be travelling Newcastle. Police are asking the public to bring in their property to be engraved with a licence or pension card number. Or if that's not convenient, they can borrow an engraving pen overnight.
And if they put their licence number on there, that it's easier for police to track down the property.
The engraving of belongings is one part of Operation Clary. It'll run for 6 months with the specific aim of reducing the incidence of property theft in inner Newcastle. Next Wednesday, the caravan will be at Carrington School, where students' bikes and other property will be engraved.